you go, Scott. There you go.
Dang, all right.
Yeah, I love it.
All you people hiding here in the back thought you were being sneaky, but I'm gonna be standing right here doing this.
I love it. So Scott has the broker moment. He's gonna want his mic still that he just put on the table.
Yep, thank you, Taylor.
But here's the broker moment. It's going to be very much around different things. Excited for this, and I think yeah. So I'm going to have you take over, Scott.
Sweet. Welcome everybody to broker class. More or less, in honor of not having broker breakdown this month, I kind of just wanted to go through what we normally do at that event once a month, first Thursday of every month. But we didn't want to compete with Ignite, right? It's a fun one, and we've been getting more and more of a crowd, and we typically do it kind of just like discussion style. So I am eager for your input. We're going to be going through a couple of things. The first one is market stats, but local market stats, right? The region's very good at doing Utah stats. I like to dive deep into the local ones and just analyze trends so that and talk about how we talk about that with our clients, our databases, all of that. That's always a fun part of the discussion. If I can make Taylor's ChatGPT work with me, which it probably will. Mine was actually a completely shot this morning for some reason. I don't know why. I will also go through just kind of how I generate data and feed it to ChatGPT to create those graphs that you guys see in my broker emails when we do those for just showing different trends to sellers, like the days on market ones that I do, like what percent of sales is happening in each days on market category and things like that. So those are the things we'll start with. And then I'd like you to be thinking, because that'll probably take, I don't know, 30 minutes. And then we'll probably end or transition into like a stump the broker. So if you guys have any questions that you want to discuss as a group that are interesting, bring your stump the broker questions, get those in your brain as we're going through market stats. And then if we have time at the end, there'll be like a couple contract things we'll cover. So do I say escape? Yes, I do. Without further ado, I'm sure many of you, come on, are familiar with these reports, but if you're not, let's get familiar with them right now, right? Has anyone had a chance to look at, Taylor has not looked at his since September. So market, dang, Taylor. So the way we change that, if you don't know, is hit this button here that you go to customize and then new location. It's going to reset everything. And then I always don't look at the MLS as a whole because I want to know what's going on in Washington County. So I'm going to type in the word Washington, find the county one, double click on that. It's automatically going to default to the most recent one. But if you wanted to compare this January to a January 10 years ago, you could do that, right? By changing the year. And that's kind of interesting to do too. So fun stuff. Here's our trends. Let me zoom in on these and we'll get going. Number of listings was incredibly consistent for the second half of last year. Started really rising coming into the holidays, and now it's dropping off. And that absorption rate looks like it's plummeting. It's not crazy plummeting, but it's an inventory trend we haven't seen in a while, where it's a real downward trend, I would say, in inventory. Any thoughts from what you guys are just seeing out there as to why that might be? I have my thoughts, which I'll share, but yeah.
More buyers. People are deciding if they're gonna get back in the game or not.
Okay. And that could be certainly part of it. If you go down here, right, this bottom section, we had last month, we did pen 16% more than we did the year before. That's pretty good. But I'm curious to know. Okay, so pendings are definitely up. 395. That beats every summer month we had last year. So this January, we had more pending sales than any any of the summer months in 2025. That is actually super interesting. I know. And like for the record, I have been feeling that and seeing like I've had people calling me this month and they're like, hey, can you set up a new MLS search for me? I'm kind of ready to start like thinking about real estate again. And I've gotten a lot of those calls. I've also gotten a lot of calls from our agents, um, when, for broker related stuff for problems. But I figure an increase in those calls means just you guys are doing a lot more business. And that's awesome. Like, keep it up. Um, so I'm excited about that. So I do think some fence sitters are coming off. I think that has a lot to do with, I mean, it didn't happen all at once, but when people stopped and it was the new year and they looked at where interest rates were and then realized, oh, this is like a full percent or more lower than where it was last year this same time. It kind of just trickled down. So I do think fence sitters are coming off. I also think you see,
Active listings, they're dropping, they dropped pretty significantly over the last 4 months.
I know that, and that's the lowest it's been in the last 12
That's
months.
400 less active listings than we had.
It'd be fun to look at that on price bands though and see where that's happening, because it's not in every price band.
Yeah. And we can look at that here. Active listings. Active listings are up significantly in some lower price categories. I mean, they're up in every category. I don't know. Except some of the higher ends. They're trending down.
Because it's 750 and 900.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hate these numbers because they go from $50,000 ranges to $250,000 ranges. So it's not a super direct comparison, but percentage wise, I mean, there's a huge number of listings increase in this range in the 500 to 750 range. But the biggest increase was in the 400s,
Yeah,
low
but-
400s.
But it's logical why that number is dropping though, because October, November usually are lowest active listing months. And they were actually higher. And then in January, you start seeing a lot of homes hit the market normally.
Yeah, and that's the red line here is new listings. So yeah, I mean, coming into November, December, like when people tell me that you know, there's no sales during the holidays, that's more the seller's fault than the buyer's fault. Like there's still people buying during the holidays, but there's fewer people selling, fewer people listing, much higher withdrawn rate, which we're not going to see on these graphs. Um, so yeah, probably a combination of
So I think it's normal to see as many new listings in October as in January. Like, that's weird.
yeah, right? It's interesting.
To me, that's, maybe Jeremy, am I wrong?
Well, that's about right. I think one of the biggest things you're gonna see is we were up 25-36% between active listings and pendings, everything was up. So now you're gonna trend everything back down, because it's gotta get back to a normal market, so we're seeing that apartment complexes, commercial, everything's trending back to normal. So now you got a normal place that you gotta find your foothold in. And you'll see that over this whole year.
Yeah.
Business should be as usual, like it's normal.
Yes, we've also seen over 100 new listings. I think people wait to list. Right?
Yeah, that's I
And
mean
then
that's
it'll
true.
continue to-
Well, this price has gone back up, it's so has days on the market too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I actually think I don't know if this downward trend's going to continue because if you look at the relationship between new listings and pended listings, like
Yeah.
we had an uptick in pendings, but not nearly as much uptick as new from month to month. So
Yeah.
hypothetically, that gap should go here next month, right?
Need that to continue.
Inventory increasing or decreasing?
Pending.
Oh, pendings. Well, yeah, we
As
do.
pending increase, it will start to pull out the listings again. You see that balance, it goes back to our 23 to 20, that 23 year 23. We're trying to get back to that market right now.
Yeah. Okay, median list prices were stuck at 600,000 for 4 months and then dropped another 10 grand, 11 grand. I understand steady there. So the median active list price has been trending down for the last 12 months.
more about we're trying to get back to 2023. Will you elaborate?
So we have this balance, right, in residential, that when you have big increases, somewhere you're gonna take a big hit and you're gonna have a bounce. We've had extreme ups and downs with inventory and different things. And so the reality is that our market right now has had this influx of listing but low buyer demand. And we've had this huge issue of affordability. So at some point, we have to have that trend break, and it's pendings that will break that trend. You'll see more and more pendings. You're gonna see more and more under contracts because interest rates, what are they running right now? Low sixes?
Yeah.
Low sixes, which is the norm. And so people are now getting comfortable with the norm. So what you wanna watch, if interest rates stay steady, your business should increase by the percentages of where the pendings go. So if pendings go up 10%, everyone should look at creating their business to go up. You should increase, your buyer pool should get 10% more of pending. Does that make sense? But what we're looking for, buyers are looking for normal and for consistency. They're not looking for 5%, 4%, 3%. I mean, everybody wants that. But the market is looking for consistency. If it finds consistency, you'll see a steadiness and you'll see that increase of pendings. If rates get thrown around and flipped around and all of a sudden you see it go back up or you go back down, and then what will happen is we'll get back in that roller coaster and we'll have to wait till another year to get back to a consistent place. We're just looking for consistency. If we have consistency, your buyers are gonna be comfortable to buy.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, from what you're saying, but what that sounds like to me is we need to get buyers to stop speculating that they can do better tomorrow than they can do today.
And agents. So what's your message?
And sellers.
Yeah, what's your messaging? Like the biggest thing we see online and social media is everybody's on the highs and everybody's on the lows, right? It's a buyer's market. It's a seller's market. Your messaging needs to be consistent. It needs to be consistency that the market, there's a place for everybody in the market. It's just finding the balance and being consistent. Buyers want to feel safe. You feel safe when you know what next year, when you know what December looks like and you're coming in the beginning first quarter this year and you feel like you know what fourth quarter is going to look like, you make decisions. If you don't know, you don't make decisions. So like my biggest issue is I think a lot of agents, and I do this too, is we don't take away enough unknowns for the buyers to make consistent decisions. And I think this year will allow us to do that. And so it's important what our messaging is. Is it, oh, there might be better deals or the market's up or the market's down? Or are we consistent with our message is this is the market for the next year? And we always know where the market goes, right? It always appreciates. At some point, the averages play out. So why not get in now? Because it's consistent. And then allow time to play. But we just got to be better with our messaging, and then buyers get comfortable and they fall in line. They're looking at us for consistency.
Love it. Any thoughts?
No.
Oh. I mean, okay, so what are you guys seeing on pricing, generally speaking? I'm seeing an incredibly flat graph that I've been seeing for the past 2 years. I mean, if you looked last month at the month over or the year over year, there was a less than 1% change in prices over the past 12 months. So even if this graph looks a little wild, it's still well within the range of like these are just monthly. Okay, a couple more expensive homes sold here, a couple fewer sold here. I mean, overall, I think the market's incredibly flat on pricing, but does anybody disagree with me? Okay, cool. Absorption rate, right? Our inventory is plummeting, but I suspect that won't continue for long.
I think that's super misleading. It's a house by house absorption rate. It's not a market absorption rate now.
Yeah, and that's what part of what we're going to talk about with ChatGPT, if we can get it to cooperate, is creating better graphs. Sold to list, sellers are getting approximately 95% of their original list price. We'll ChatGPT into that as well. Days on market is technically the highest it's been in the last 12 months. The average, Dom, the average is 88.4 days on market. This is not a huge variance. I mean, 72 is the bottom of this graph, 90 is the top. So just keep in mind, like this is not as crazy a variation as it looks, but it is overall the past 12 months trending up. And then I always like to look at this one. So on the sold sale volume, last month in Washington County, Utah, real estate agents on MLS closed $183.2 million worth of real estate. That is a lot of commission dollars. Anyone want to quickly do the math on what, say, 2.5%, or let's say 5% of that is 2.5 per side?
5% is like 900.
Sweet. So our ourselves and our compatriots in this industry.
Okay.
It's
It's 9 million.
Okay, so approximately $9 million of real estate commissions were paid in January. Right? It's probably going to be a very similar number next month, right? This doesn't move a ton, but it's probably even going to go up. This is a slight downward tick, but that's going to go up in the spring. So the question is, how many of those dollars do you want? You know, that is so much money that is paid to our industry, and all we have to do is go out and find the business.
It's great perspective. There's a lot of business out there.
There is so much business to be done, right? Even if all you did was 1 million of that. Okay, so days on market mixed with absorption rate, mixed with sold to list. That's what I want to talk about. These graphs are not super informative. They're kind of like interesting for us to talk about, but they're not that interesting for our clients. And so I like to mess with Taylor's computer. Go away. There we go. Every month I go into ChatGPT and I do my own graphs. And the data I get for that is from Flex, which Taylor has different Flex MLS. Taylor, you're not. Why are you not logged in? Will it? Okay.
Log back in.
All right. All right.
And while you're doing that, how does this compare with the national builders that you're working with?
A lot of land banking. Right
Hmm.
now, there's a trend for new construction that will play out in 27 that everyone's pushing for. So we're seeing a lot of heavy land banking and partnerships, especially in our Texas communities in the Midwest.
Hmm.
But the reality is you gotta separate new construction from existing. And then you get some really clear data, because new constructions carry real estate for a long time, but it's gotta balance out. Because at some point, people have to sell these existing homes, and we know low interest rates and other things have kept them in houses, but that group's gonna move. And that's where a lot of the builders are focused on that data, is the existing market has to move at some point. They're just stacking up right now.
Hmm.
And so when you see that movement, and that's the big trend we're gonna see in 27, I think, is that those houses are eventually gonna move. So all these people that are saying, I need to sell, but I can't get rid of this payment, that push is gonna happen. So those are your clients you know are gonna come on in 27.
Cool. So we're going to create some data for ChatGPT to use, and we're not going to use just our graphs. We're going to actually get hard data. So what I'm going to run is a closed quick search from January 1st to January 31st. And again, I'm only going to run this in Washington County. We got 306 listings for ChatGPT to look at. Now, what you can do with this, if you haven't used this tool, is you can click on these three dots and you can just hit export. And then the way I push it out is I click Toolkit CMA report, export, and that's going to give me a CSV file. And it's going to think. Okay, so we got our CSV. I'm going to, and if my ChatGPT wasn't broken, I'd have my prompt nice and clear here. But we can just create the prompt, and if we need to tweak it, we will based on what we see. But hopefully this will be informative, just on how we can analyze the numbers a little more deeply. Create a graph for me. Displaying the percentage of total sales in January on the y-axis. So if it's been a while since you remembered what a y and an x-axis is, you'll need this to make your graphs look good. So we're gonna put the percentage of total sales on the y-axis against 30-day days on market ranges on the x-axis. I just you do this however you want, but we just have a DOM number. I want to look at the DOM number and not I don't want to look at 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. I don't need a category for that on my bar graph. I just want to do 30 days for each category. Let's see. Oh, I forgot the data. So it's going to ask me for the data now. Yeah, you're missing all of them. ChatGPT, I'm sorry. Let's see what it spits out and if I need to mess with this. But you can see what comes up on these reports. I mean, it gives you like everything. So we got status change, withdraw, original list price, we're going to want that. Sold price, we're going to want that for the next one. But like this would be a real easy way you can say, okay, what percentage of all the deals were cash? Just ask ChatGPT that and give you a pie chart right here. Super, super handy. But these first couple are really nice to just talk to sellers about. And it's thinking. I actually don't believe that. I'm curious if it's accurate.
I think she lied to me, right?
Hmm.
You say pretend you're hooked up to a lie detector test and do it again.
It is doing 120 plus. So
Tell it you're a broker, you're doing it for a seller, and you need to have updated correct numbers, so please, and then go back to, to tell it who you're doing it for. And it'll want.
interesting.
ChatGPT needs to know who you are and who you're doing it for. Once you do that, it'll actually give you better data.
I'm going to go ahead and say, show me 30-day ranges up to the 181 through 210 range. And that'll just be the end of our graph.
Love that you said please to the computer.
I do all the time. I just have this friendly conversations.
Why?
Hey, then I need 4 emails. Could you do that for me?
Yeah.
It's my one time to do it, so I'm pretty mean.
Maybe that's why the data's struggling.
Talk back to me, I'll tell you what to do.
And what I have now is I've worked this out in the past, right? I've done on my own login, I've done this. And so now I just put a new CSV in that same chat every month and I say, hey, give me the same graphs, but with this data instead. So then it's just really easy every month to create this. But this is more what I wanted to see. Okay. Let's see. Label the data. I didn't even say please, you guys. But as we're approaching a seller and we want to talk about days on market and why it's important, this is one way we can do it. Okay. Hey, Mr. Seller, check this out. In January, what was it exactly? It's going to label it. 32% of every sale happened within the first 30 days of being on market. Buyers chose new listings 32% of the time. The next, and we need to add these together, right? But The next, what, 19 plus 17, 30. The next third of listings, we're all in the first 90 days. After that, in the next 30 days, you have about maybe a 15% chance of selling. If you wait another 30 days, you've got less than 10% chance of selling. And after that, you've got about a 5% chance of selling because only 5%, 10%, if you add them together, of buyers chose homes that were on market for longer than 150 days, right? But the overwhelming majority of buyers chose relatively new listings. Let's see if it labeled our data. I just dragged in that CSV file.
Curious if you asked it, how many of these, once they change their price, how many days did they have on market?
I'll be surprised, the price changed that.
We can't.
The
can't do that
CSV,
'cause we can't
yeah.
have the date they changed the price.
So they won't show that in that CSV file?
No.
No.
I tried and tried.
That's the
Yeah.
email.
Because that's the
Change
change
the
the price.
price, yeah.
Yeah.
My theory is within 15 days of a price change, usually things go under contract. When they hit the right price.
So there's no CSV file to
You
pull
have
out.
to go through that individual.
No, you have to go through the history.
So you'd pull the history of the home.
I bet we
I-
could have ChatGPT do it because it lives on my browser. It'd be all about how do we label it, but if we went to the browser and said, hey, going through all of this data, I want you to go to each property and go to the history and
I've
see.
tried.
That would be such a good
But it
report.
would take forever.
Yeah, it gets lost at about, well, I guess if you only did it a month at a time, it'd be better. I was trying to do it 6 months.
Cause that's the report, right?
Yeah, I've been trying to get Flex to open,
We'll play with that.
like,
Yeah,
hey,
it's
give us this
interesting. Yeah.
date in this CSV file, then you can actually do it.
Yeah.
I'll-
What
I'll
we
try and-
have on this CSV, I believe, is just every field that shows up on your listing report. And since days since last price change isn't a field on the listing report, we don't get it.
So ask them-
Let's change date.
Assholes.
If
Yeah,
it was one.
Yeah.
At least you would know if it sold for under asking. Well, that they.
That's the next graph we're gonna do.
did do a price.
Okay, so it didn't display it, but it did give us a nice clean graph. I don't know why it says, okay, so we actually have a number too, which is kind of nice.
It's actually gonna be.
But you can,
What's the purpose though, right? So like what's the purpose? We're trying to get a seller to move in a direction that we wanna go. So we could overanalyze the data all day long and they're gonna glaze over. We could give them down to the minute detail as to why they need to do something. But I think you could overcomplicate it for the seller, because we're just trying to get the seller to, it's helpful for us, maybe in pricing and knowing, like, hey, based off this house, they had to do this big price drop for it to move. But the reality is for the seller themselves, to get them to act. I think keeping it simple is typically better than really honing in on all the minutia of the data.
Let's have an engineer for.
Sometimes.
Hey, ChatGPT, what?
That can give an analysis
Clients
paralysis.
while you're working with engineers.
Say that again?
I said, ChatGPT, what percentage of clients while you're working with who are engineers?
Yeah. You get 5%.
Depends on what your marketing message is.
all right, I've created my next prompt. What this says, if you can't read it, please create a similar graph with 30-day ranges on the x-axis, but with the percent total price reduction on the y-axis. Then I told it how to calculate percent total price reduction because that's not a field in my CSV, using fields in my CSV. And let's see if that gets us the next graph we want. And these two graphs are like my listing presentation graphs. You bring these two graphs to a listing presentation and say, well, what do you think, Mr. Seller? Is it important to price your home to sell, or should we let it sit on the market for 120 days? What do you think? Right? I love asking those questions.
That first graph is powerful because it's really simple.
Yeah, the second one's good too. And it's just how much do people have to reduce their price total to get their home sold over time? Right? And you can argue the semantics of this, like, oh, well, that just means that the people that underprice their home sold faster. You could argue that, sure. But the graph is great. All right, it's not going to display it again. What the heck, ChatGPT? Let's see what it looks like, see if it got where we wanted to be. Price reduction. Here we go. So, Mr. Seller, this is the average amount a person has to reduce their price overall to get it sold the longer they're on market. You can see in the first 30 days, the average total price reduction was 2% to get the deal done. The next 30 days, it goes up to 3. The next 30 days, it goes up to 5.5, then 6.5. And then by the time you're on market for 6 months, you're doing a double-digit percentage price reduction to get your home sold.
Chasing.
That,
Yeah, this is original list price, right? You can run it either way. But I think this graph displays the principle very well that we're trying to communicate to these sellers.
So to Rob's point though, how do you simplify this so that a seller understands it? You just tell ChatGPT to give you 5 bullet points, or are you gonna present the graph, Rob?
No, you're up.
I mean, I think, I was thinking, I think it depends on how far away are you on where they think value is versus where the market's showing. I think, this is a really good chart just on its own, is these two side by side, I think. But the point being is, what's the message that we're trying to relay to the seller? Is the pricing it right on the front end is going to ultimately net you more money than you otherwise would get the longer you're on the market, based off the data that we're shown. So making more aggressive price changes early on will help us to move the house sooner and net you more money than the longer you're on the market, right? And so I think that's kind of the key part of that. But it also just depends on the seller. How dug in are they on price? Are you having are they not seeing the market the way that it is versus what they think there's value in? And so in the listing presentation, I don't necessarily think the price reduction chart is all that important. I think in the first 21 days, this is where you bring in this chart to help them see, hey, what's our strategy moving forward? We can talk about the strategy on the listing side, show them how important it is to price it right early on. But that second chart is really helpful in getting them to act and move into the price point when you need them to move. I don't know if you showed the first one on a listing presentation, but I don't know.
I've done it, and I don't know, people, and they like, because one of the things I do with the listing presentation, right, especially if there's like one where there's not great comps,
Yeah.
you know,
And
you're saying,
that's true too.
if you're saying, here's our pricing strategy. We need to feel out the market. You need an ear to the ground to tell you what the market's saying. And here's the risk. These are the stakes, Mr. Seller. That's what I think from a marketing perspective, we're establishing stakes here. We're saying, look, if we miss that first 30-day window, that's okay. But man, our best chance of a sale is in that first 30 days based on this data right here. You know, you have double the chance of selling in the first 30 days as you do in the next 30 days. So my job is to keep my ear to the ground and tell you what the market's saying and keep you updated weekly so that we do our very best to not miss those first 30 days.
See, I actually disagree with Robert. I think that first one could be very valuable so that they can see the reality of waiting and waiting and waiting. Because when we tell them, hey, waiting will cost you a lot of money, it's on deaf ears most of the time. But if they can see the actual data, the people that took more than 3 months cost themselves a good 6, 7, 8% more out of their pocket, I think it can make it more real than us just, because if it's just us telling them, we're just selling. But if they can capture it and feel it, this is where we just have to slow down and allow them to answer the questions. Hey, what do you think this says for you?
Yeah.
What do you think that says for you if we're 6 months on the market?
Because what is it telling the buyers? This is what I've been telling my sellers too, is with this large inventory, buyers have so many options that, and you guys tell me if you're seeing differently, but with my buyer clients, they see an overpriced listing and they immediately judge the seller as someone who's impossible to work with, must be unreasonable, is stuck in yesterday's pricing. They're never going to budge because they're overpriced. And because they have so many options to look at, they're not even scheduling showings at the overpriced homes, let alone making the offer. So I tell my sellers, look, you may think you can just price high and then a buyer's going to make you a lowball offer and you're just negotiate to where you actually think the home is worth. It's not going to happen. The buyers aren't going to make you a price. They're not even going to make you the offer. They're not even going to look at your home. Right. They won't even show it because they're judging you from day one based on the two things they know about you, what your house looks like and what you priced it at. That's what the buyers are, and they're judging you off of that, Mr. Seller. I mean, really, like that's what I feel from talking to my buyers. Um, and then this also helps me define like, because I think buyer or sellers rather, when they hear, and I tell my sellers this, I said, when sellers hear realtors say we need to price the home to sell, what they think we say is we need to price this home for a quick fire sale so I get commission in my pocket. What we're really saying is, are we going to price it to sell or are we going to price it so that it sits on the market and does not sell? Here's the visualization of what those two strategies look like. You price to sell, you end up in those first three categories. If you price to sit, you end up in the last categories.
I think commissions are expensive, just sit around.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, if you sit for 180 days, I'm not charging you 10.5% or 10.4%, but that's what it's going to cost you to sit around for 6 months to price your home to sit instead of to sell.
There's not a stat to put to this, but I bet you that the fallout rate's higher too. Somebody that goes under contract on a home that's been on the market for 120 days because they're looking for anything that's wrong with it. If they get their offer accepted in day one and it's multiple offers, they're like, we're not gonna cancel on this because we know somebody else is gonna swoop in and buy it right now.
Yeah.
Or we're not gonna ask them all these crazy little repair items, because what if the seller says no, we know there's an option. So I'm sure that the buyers are a lot harder to deal with for a seller the longer the home has been on the market too.
Well, it goes right back to this. Like, why are a third of buyers choosing the new homes? Like, I guarantee that the homes are still just as good over here, but they're stigmatized. That's exactly what I'm hearing. These homes are stigmatized, and it's true, right? Like, and the other thing I tell my sellers is that the agents might be curious enough to look at the price history. Your home's been on market for 180 days. The agents might look and say, oh, well, they've only been at their current price for 20 days. But your average buyer, they're looking at, oh my goodness, 180 days at that price, even if that's your reduced price, there must be something wrong with it. If it's priced well today with high days on market, they're saying, oh, well, that's priced well, but gosh, 180 days, what's wrong with it? Because they're not digging into that price history. The buyers just aren't.
The other thing I throw in there is you've got the cost of impact too, because so many times you're squabbling over, let's say 10, 15 grand. And you say, okay, well, what does that mean in your pocket? Now let's times that out by 3 months of you making your payment. That's $2,500, that's $7,500. So the impact to your actual wallet is less than you making those 3 months of payments. So
yeah.
when they actually, and that's what, because you're talking such large numbers, hey, we're looking at a $600,000 home. Their brain is saying 600,000. That's a big number. But when you look at how does that actually impact your wallet, the difference between someone at 580 versus 600.
Yeah.
Here's what that is, and your payment is this. You're actually losing money if we let this go past that 30 days.
Wouldn't that be really interesting to create some kind of visual? Because I think like home buyers, and Taylor, you're probably gonna laugh at me about this because I'm not a flipper, but I've watched some flipping shows. And like the flippers, they're always talking about the holding cost, right? They're always putting a holding cost number on there. Wouldn't it be interesting to do that for our sellers? Say, what's your holding cost? What does every month on market cost you?
Yeah, that part.
I mean, he
That's a-
basically did.
We kind of did it over here, right?
Well, I think if you pre-qualify really well and you get their payments and the cost of living there, you
Yeah.
can break that down. But that's like in the development world, we call it taking away the unknowns. An investor won't write me a check unless I take away the unknowns. That's taking away the unknowns for the seller. They're not going to make a decision on price that's lower than what they think unless you take away the unknowns.
Yeah.
So that's taking away the unknowns. I love that.
When I'm pricing for investors, that's the key number. Is, I'm like, hey, wait, look, as an investor, you have to know what your hard costs are. You're running this as a business. So when you're pricing investors, that's a key factor to what a person would look at.
So I'm gonna have it add a trend line to the graph. Because then we could approach, if we have a trend line to this graph, then we can just average it out and say, okay, look, on average, staying on market 30 more days adds X% price reduction. Let's tack that onto your mortgage payment, right? And then see what that number comes out to be, you know? So every month on market, it's costing you what percent of your original list price? Use marketing material you understand is my first recommendation. Don't use marketing material you're not comfortable with.
No, have the
But-
seller do the exercise in front of you. Have them write down on a piece of paper how much it costs to live in that house every month. Literally go through and say, okay, how much is your insurance bill? How much is your utility bill? How much is your payment? Can you afford, if we lower the price now, or could you afford to do this for this many months? Like, let them look at the numbers and make a decision, but have them do the exercise. If they do the exercise themselves, they're more likely to make a better decision than if I told them.
And here's what you can use too, Jen, for calculation's sake. We've added a trend line. We now know that every 30 days on market, on average, costs the seller 1.37, about 1.33% of their original list price. So if you're listing for $500,000, it's costing you a little over $5,000 every month that you sit on market, plus your mortgage payment. That's super interesting, and I really like it. I don't know if you guys are as nerdy about this as me, but I think some of you are. But yeah, so if you got a $500,000 home, it costs you, I mean, what's 1.37% of $500,000? What is it?
Like 7 grand-ish.
7-ish? Yeah. 65, 7, somewhere in there. Plus your mortgage payment. How important is it to you to sell your home quickly? In your opinion, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how long would you like to stay on the market before we sell your home based on these numbers? Okay, so where do you think we should price your home that would cause it to sell in the timeline that would cost you the least amount of money? Here's your comps. Choose wisely. Right? I mean, it's really, you just put it back on them. You put the numbers in front of them. I think most people, in my experience at least, will think it's a great idea to price to sell instead of to sit.
For sale by owner, too, if you show, you list your house for sale by owner, how long does it sit on the market? I'd like to see that graph. How long does it sit on the market? And then you can do this, even if you pay me, you're supposed to sell your house, so if it's been on the market 90 days before you list it, it comes from the loss.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Here's how much, I mean, really, yeah, you show them both of these graphs, you know? What's the, you know, okay, if you're calling a FSBO who's been on for longer than 30 days, okay, man, you missed your window, right? You list with me, your days on our market will be 0. And we can, right? Like that's a value add right there. Let's set your days on market to 0 by listing with me.
Get paid on perceived value.
Yeah. Right? I mean, and then you have the pricing conversation, which is fun with FSBOs. But really, okay, so based on this, where would you want to price your home to cause it to sell in those first 30 days and give yourself the best chance of not increasing your price reduction? Anyway, those are the graphs I usually make every month. Once you have this laid out in your ChatGPT, you can just drag that CSV right back in, say, hey, make me new graphs for the month. Throw it into your listing presentation, however you want to do it.
I'll give you my email address.
I do send these out in my broker email.
Perfect.
So don't send me to spam, please. It does come through MailChimp, so I know sometimes I go to spam, but I don't know. Usually 60 to 70% of you guys open those. So I don't know how many read them, but I usually get a good open rate on them. So I appreciate you guys at least making me feel good. But it's really fun. And I do believe, like, again, just having put this in front of some sellers, like they see this and they feel some urgency. And that's my goal in doing graphs like this. I want to create a sense of urgency in the seller, whether it's a FSBO or any other seller. Let's create a sense of urgency and establish the stakes. this is what pricing to sit will cost you.
Yeah, those two graphs really put it into perspective where you can,
Yeah.
it's a lot different than telling them.
Right.
You're not gonna tell them.
And to be honest, when we don't have holidays as a consideration, this one, the percent of sales, this is low for a 30-day range. What we were seeing in like October, November is 45 to 50% of sales happening in the first 30 days. And the reason for that is because we've had fewer new listings in the holiday months. So there just are fewer listings in that 0 to 30 range. And so this is a reduced small number, but on a normal month, as long as I've been running it, we've been like 40 to 50%.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it's crazy.
Do you have a strategy of pricing low to create affinity for your?
We should.
Your seller and helping them to understand that, you know, it's not a risk to price low, because if you price too low, you've got a bidding war and they one up each other, and then you sometimes end up selling for more.
And so sellers do believe there's risk in pricing low. They do. It's like, well, what if I sell it for too low? And I mean, frankly, it's like you show them this, it's like the risk is so much greater of pricing high. Because this is what the numbers show. And it's very difficult on your own. Like, how long are you going to wait before you can say definitively that you're overpriced, right? How long are you going to wait? It's so easy to know when you're underpriced because you're going to get multiple, like in this market, you absolutely will get multiple offers if you're underpriced. I mean, are you guys seeing otherwise? Because I have buyers who only like to look at the underpriced homes and they lose every time because it turns into a bidding war. What are you seeing differently though? Yeah.
I've heard underpricing, not even a ton, just a little.
Yeah.
Both of them close in less than 30 days, both of them have multiple offers.
Yeah. And in my opinion, it's because the buyers are so sick of overpriced listings in this market that they won't give them a second thought. They won't go show the overpriced homes. But when they see a they're judging the seller. When they see a seller who must be such a reasonable person to deal with because they put a reasonable price on their home, man, they're ready to jump. And especially right now, because I don't know, I think the fence sitters are hopping off the fence to a degree, starting the new year. I think people have made New Year's resolutions to buy more real estate, and I'm excited. So
I think the other thing you can really hit the clientele with is, you know, kind of that mentality of which one is most likely to get a low price offer. So if there's 30 days, you're not gonna get a low price offer. But the second you hit there, everybody's looking. So if you're insulted by somebody offering you less than you're asking, let it sit on market 60 days. Because everybody knows now you're desperate. You're
Right.
gone beyond. So if you want low ball offers, go ahead and price it high, because in 60 days, that's all you're gonna get is low ball offers. Because they're waiting for you to hit that 60, 90 day, because now your desperation level, whether that's perceived or reality,
yeah.
you're gonna get way more low ball offers if you're overpriced those first 30 days than you are on day 60 or 90.
Yeah, you can do the same 2% price reduction that you would have done in the first 30 days and got it sold. You can do that same price reduction after 90 days, and you're gonna have to tack people are still gonna come in 4% under because they think something's wrong with their home. You've got the stigma of your home sitting on market. You got the fact that buyers are not looking at the price history. All these factors, right, are combining. And so when we talk about days on market, this is how I like to talk about days on market. It goes so far beyond the little graphs and flex. I hope this was helpful. Greg, you want to be our last comment, and then I think we're out of
I
time.
was just curious if you guys are finding in the multiple offer situations, Jen, did you get above asking?
Both times.
You did both times.
Now, one of them, it was because we included furniture, so part of that amount was furniture. But the other one, yeah, we ended up later on, because there was deferred maintenance, so we did end up getting a couple $1,000s off of the overpriced for some deferred
Yeah, yeah.
maintenance. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, well, thank you so much, Scott.
You're welcome.
That was good.